Good day, hi, and welcome. All right, let's see if you can see that tree out there. I don't know if it'll focus or not. Ooh, those colors, those fall colors. All right, so I'm gonna be sitting here because I'm an abandoned child today, so I'm gonna sit in the living room with my bass. And before we get into the video, just a little bit of a. All right, so I slept. I get it. All right. There we go. Okay, what's a good bass player worth? And what am I talking about? Well, I gotta tell you a little tale about three bass players. Um, and now that I've been doing noodling on the bass enough to really say that I've been noodling on the bass while I've been noodling on the bass. Since when did I get this thing? Was it February or March? I'll say March. I'm pretty sure it was in March. I got this and the Mark Holcomb 7 string at the same time, right? Or was it the 6 string? Yeah, no, it was. No. It was the 7 string. Uh, but anyway, whichever Mark Holcomb guitar I got first, I can't remember now. I'll have to check out my own videos to find that out. I got this bass with the idea of recording in mind because I needed a bass. Although my BR 1200, which is an outdated technology, I get that's 2006 technology, has a bass simulator where you can take your guitar and put it in a bass mode kind of thing, and it did the job, right? But it doesn't sound right, right? A bass is a bass is a bass is a bass is a bass. Yeah, right. And I wanted to get one, so I got this one because I wanted the 5 string. If I would have known the 6 string version of this was available, I would have gotten the 6 string version of it. And I've been learning a lot on this bass. It's been teaching me a lot and all that stuff. But what I learned from bass players, good bass players over the years, is the first thing is most bass players are not that good. Most bass players are just they got timing and they just sit on the roof. In other words, they suck as bad as I do, and that's fine. There's most bass players are like some people say failed guitar players, whatever. I don't look at it like that. If you play bass and guitar, you're a multi instrumentalist. You're still within the realm of guitar for sure. But if you're some of the best bass players, were guitar players first, right? A lot of people don't realize that. A lot of bass players are guitar players that can't seem to find a band, right? It's like it's like I can't form a band or I can form a band, but I can find guitar players, but I can't find a bass player. And then it's like every band they already got their guitar players, right? So it's like okay, well if I play bass, everybody wants you, right? Easiest way for a guitar player to get into a band is play bass. So years ago, my very first bass player, who was a friend of mine, he was not bad. Actually, it's going to be about 4 guys. His name was Mark, and we were teenagers. And he was into Billy Sheenan. I was into Paul Gilbert. So we used to do that, addicted to that Rush thing, all that stuff. Yeah, yeah. I don't know if I could play Addicted to That Rush on this. Something like that. Great song though, Addicted to That Rush. If you've never heard Mr. Big's Addicted to That Rush, the dynamic duo, Billy Sheenan, Paul Gilbert, phenomenal, right? Great stuff. So he was a hot rod bass player, but he was a very flashy bass player. Because he was a teenager and I was a teenager, I thought he was really good. But in hindsight, he actually wasn't that good as a bass player because he was all about the bass, which was great. He had chops, he was great with that, but he didn't realize that, you got to play along with the other band. Like the band doesn't, like he took, the rhythm section to the, well, you're following me, so I'm going to do all this. He was way too busy, right? But that was just being a young guy, whatever. I can imagine now if he's still playing bass, he'd be an actual, probably pretty phenomenal bass player. But at the time, like he had timing, he had everything like that. He was learning the Billy Sheenan stuff, all that stuff. He was, the Steve Harris Iron Maiden stuff. He was into all that stuff, but he was just one of those bass players like he was like most drummers at the like most drummers are tone deaf. They think all you do is just pound the shit out of the things. All like they don't have any nuance to their playing. It's just overpower, 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 and they don't realize that's not how a band works, right? So he was young at it. He was a good player. He had a lot of potential. His second band he was a lot better in because he'd been playing for 4 or 5 years, even though he was still a teenager. But the other band, you kind of okay, you got to hold back a little bit for the rest of the band, right? And the guitar player, he ended up another. This guy was really really good. Uh, anyway, named Robbie, and anyway, he was fantastic guitar player, and he worked well with Mark, and they were very technical, everything like that. They were really good, and Adam, the singer, was a big Extreme fan, so like they were. Everybody in the band was really good. The drummer was really good. Uh, and everything like that. And they played well, but they were still a rookie band. Like again, if they would have stayed together all those years, I don't know. I think they broke up a while back. And at one point, I was going to be their guitar player or one of their guitar players, but then at the last minute, it was like like everything. This is if you ever saw the movie, the little movie short called Session Man, you can still find it on YouTube. That movie, no word, every word in that little movie is 100% true. Every word in Eddie and the Cruisers 2 is true. Like you couldn't find something that describes being a musician in a band trying to make it any better than that. You know what I mean? And so it's not uncommon. Oh yeah, guy, we really want you. We really want you. And then last minute, you were gonna go with the other guy. that happens all the time. So I was fine with it. I've always had a chill attitude to that. Like if you need me, you need me. If you don't, you don't. Uh, like no harm, no foul. It's just I know people are like that. They build you up and then, and then they'll either ghost you and like not get back to you or whatever because they found somebody else. But when they need somebody like, oh yeah, we'll butter you up. It just don't take it personally. It is what it is, right? And anyway, so I learned a lot with Mark. We did our first gig, 2 gigs together, maybe 3 or 4 gigs we did together. We jammed together through high school like crazy, and there was other bass players, but all the other bass players were just, or more, they'd have a pick. That's the most they could do. You know what I mean? Mark he was trying, he was trying slapping, he was trying tapping, he was, he was always doing something which was really cool because what him and I learned was harmonizing. We weren't good at it. We were not good at it, but we were very experimental. And I remember we did this jam called Epic Space. We called it that. And it was a Canada Day. It was our second gig, and I had my no, it was our first gig. It was our very first gig. And anyway, him and I were just playing off each other, doing these weird harmonies. And all I remember is this. I just remember Mark started, because we didn't know where to go, and Mark just started doing that. And I was like, something like that. Nowhere near as clean as that. But we were trying stuff like that, right? And it was really cool for just the sheer fact that this was an improvised jam on our very first gig, because our singer really sucked. He was one of my best friends, but he sucked, right? And whatever. And I was like, okay, yeah, Mark and I are going to do a jam, and Steve was an okay drummer for the time, but again, teenager, play the drums way too loud for the rest of the band, but he did okay. He did okay because Steve had played drums for a while. His dad was a musician. His dad was a pretty good guitar player, into the bluegrass and the country and stuff like that. But he was very good, and we took a lot of pointers from him. And his dad looked like Jimmy Page. I shit you not, with a few extra pounds. He was Jimmy Page with a few extra pounds. But he gave us some great advice. And stuff like that. And I just remember Mark and I doing that. And I barely remember the tunes we did, but I remember that. And that was cool because it was very creative on the spot, even if it wasn't the best done, right? So that was my first bass player. And the very first band we had was called Fenris Wolf, and then there was Earthquake was the second band, which was still really the same band. We just like swapped out the singer, one friend for the other, and we just renamed the band. Like, when you're teenagers, eh? Like everything's so big when you're a teenager. Oh, it's fun though. It was fun. And then, from there I went into, I don't know how many bands. There was one guy, drummer, you would swear he was like a reincarnation of Keith Moon, young guy too, really good. And that was my first introduction